This video focuses on two separate eras, and in a sense, two separate migrations. Both, however, can be examined through the development of Hemisfair Park and the urban renewal processes. The first, exploring the German immigration to San Antonio into this neighborhood. The second being a migration out of this community into separate neighborhoods of San Antonio in the 1960s. The German community flourished in San Antonio, and by 1870s, their population was the largest nationality, overtaking the Irish, English, and Mexican populations. The German impact on the city was outstanding, opening the Minger Hotel, and as well as organizing the first volunteer firefighters. Of the 300 homes, only 22 were actually saved from the neighborhood once called Germantown. There's the Mayor and Rachel Half home, located on 139 Goliad Street. Mayor Half was born in France in 1836, escaping poverty before the Franco-Prussian War. In 1864, Mayor Half and his brother moved to San Antonio and opened a store on Commerce Street named Mayor Half and Brother. Their business thrived and became one of the largest mercantiles in the Southwest. Retail and ranching weren't the Half brothers' only businesses. They also opened the City National Bank in San Antonio and joined Solomon in founding the Alamo National Bank. They were also founding members of the Temple Bethel, the oldest synagogue in South Texas. There was also the James and Mary Sweeney home, located just next door. Sweeney immigrated from Killiney, Ireland, working in both real estate and banking in South Texas. They found prosperity in San Antonio and built their 2,000 square foot home at 117 Goliad Street in 1868. He married Mary Johnson, a San Antonio resident of English and Irish descent who came to South Texas with her parents from Ohio in 1848. Up next is the Herman and Mary Schultz home, both of which were natives of Prussia, born in 1835 and 1838 respectively. Herman was born in Berlin and arrived in Texas sometime in the 1850s. By 1864, he had established a hardware business, in addition to crafting metal building components and installing metal roofing. The Schultz family would go on to create a hardware and dry goods store with apartments on the second floor. During the World's Fair, this former store and warehouse was used to host the Humboldt Oil Pavilion's travel showcase and 150-seat theater. Up next is the Solomon and Fanny Half home on 142 Goliad. Solomon Half followed his brother Mayer from France to America around 1855 when he was just 17 years old. He worked for his brother as a bookkeeper in Liberty, Texas. Many of the store's transactions made in cattle and not gold or paper currency, he soon left the store in order to manage the growing cattle herds. Even though Solomon was a French citizen, he was conscripted into the Confederate Army in the Civil War in 1862. After the war, he would move to San Antonio to work with his brother in his mercantile business, Mayor Half and Brother, mentioned previously. Up last is the Longini Herman home. The Longini family built the home in 1893 and lived there until 1911, when they exchanged it for 582 acres in Dimmitt County, about 2 hours southwest of San Antonio. The Herman family purchased the home in 1916 and kept it in the family for nearly 50 years until the Urban Renewal Agency bought it from them. Emmanuel Longini immigrated to the United States from France as a teenager and became a citizen of the United States nearly 10 years later. They would sell it between 1911 and 1916 when William Herman bought it. Both William and his wife Augusta were both born in Germany and brought 2 daughters, 1 son, as well as Augusta's parents to live on Goliad Street. The reality of the second migration from within San Antonio to another part of San Antonio is a bit less documented. The neighborhood shifted to a much more working-class neighborhood in the 20th century. Louis Fisher, an expert in restoration and preservation, described it as a real San Antonio neighborhood. It was a good place to live, like a small town, Hetty Mary Worley wrote in her 1968 booklet, Houses of Hemisfair Park. It was a neighborhood in need of some repair, but not an urban slum. The reality of this migration was documented in the Urban Renewal Project books, and mainly by the photographer Ray Howell. For these, you would see the homeowner or business owner, the income, number of employees, number of rooms, as well as a small remark on whether or not they benefited from having to move, along with 2 Polaroids, one of the before address and one of the after. Also lost in the Urban Renewal Project number 5 was the Rodfi Shalom Temple and the St. Michael's Church. The Rodfi Shalom Temple was the oldest standing temple in the Southwest. Much of the Jewish community in Germantown this was sort of the anchor for them. And the St. Michael's Church, just a block away, had served the Polish community since 1868. Germantown was the anchor of what it meant to be a San Antonio community. It was a heterogeneous working class community that was destroyed because of the urban renewal projects in the 1960s. Germantown was a neighborhood built by immigrants for immigrants. All cultures, all faiths, and all classes interspersed in truly what was a utopian vision of the United States.